Okay. Have you ever noticed that like little twinge of panic when you think about a big change coming up?
Yeah.
Even if it's something good, right?
Yeah,
It's like there's just this like knot in your stomach.
for sure.
Well, today we're going deep into that feeling, into
Yeah.
why we as humans,
Yeah.
we have such a weird relationship with the unknown, right?
It is kind of a strange one.
It is. And we've got this awesome article to guide us, Why We Fear the Unknown by Priyanka Rajiv.
Sounds like a good one.
So you ready to get a little bit introspective here?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised at like how much this is really baked into us.
Oh, yeah.
This is deep stuff, ancient wiring we're talking about.
Yeah. So Priyanka, she talks a lot about how our brains, they just crave predictability.
They do.
And that change, it really throws a wrench in the works. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And honestly, I love a good routine. I'm all about it. I like to know what's coming next. But is it really just about our brains trying to like conserve energy,
Yeah.
be as efficient as possible?
Well, it's a big part of it, right? You've got to think about it. Your brain is constantly processing so much information,
Oh, yeah.
making all these decisions, keeping your body functioning. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a busy place up there.
It is. So when it can fall back on those patterns, the routines, it frees up resources. Change, that's what disrupts all that.
Yeah.
It forces the brain to work harder, and that in itself can be a little bit stressful.
Yeah, it's like our brain saying like, hey, I already know this route. Let's stick to it.
Totally. I know exactly what you mean. But, there's another layer to this whole thing, and this goes way back to our evolution, our ancestors.
Oh, okay.
So think about it. For them, if they encountered something unknown, that could mean danger, right? Like a new landscape.
Oh, right.
That could equal no food,
Right. Starvation.
starvation, or rustle in the bushes.
Oh, gosh.
Who knows what that could be, right?
Could be a predator.
Yeah, predator. So our amygdala, that's the part of the brain that handles fear, it got really good at being on high alert for anything unfamiliar.
Oh, okay. So that's like that fear center of the brain, the amygdala.
Exactly, the fear center.
So like even though most of us, we're not out there dodging saber-toothed tigers every day.
Right.
That same like danger signal, it still goes off when we're faced with like, a job interview or a big move or something like that.
Yeah. You got to think of it like your amygdala, it hasn't quite caught up to the modern world.
Oh,
It's still working on that better safe than sorry program. So when we face something new, even if it's exciting to us consciously,
yeah.
there's that primal part of our brain saying, whoa, 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 hold on, this could be risky.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So is that why it's so hard to step outside of our comfort zone then?
It's a big part of it because logically we know, trying something new could be great. But it's like that primal part of us is like, no, danger, danger.
It really is. It's the ultimate comfort zone trap, right?
Yeah.
So your comfort zone, it represents the familiar, the things you can control, the stuff you know.
Right.
Anything outside of that, boom, potential threat.
Right.
And our brains, they are wired to minimize threats.
Okay, yeah.
But here's the catch. Staying in that comfort zone, yeah, it feels safe.
Sure.
But it can keep you from all the good stuff.
Yeah, growing, learning.
Growing, learning, experiencing all that life has to offer.
So it's like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Our brains are trying to keep us safe, but it's that same instinct that can keep us from really like living and growing.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It really is a paradox.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, and it's one of the biggest reasons why people have such a tough time with change.
Makes sense.
But here's the thing. Just understanding this paradox, understanding how our brains tick, that's the first step to breaking free.
Okay, I like that. I'm ready to break free. What's next?
All right, let's talk about loss aversion.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that concept at all?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but honestly, it's always seemed kind of counterintuitive to me.
Really? How so?
Well, because isn't gaining something good, isn't that supposed to like outweigh the bad of losing something?
You would think. Right. That's what logic tells us.
Right.
But our brains, they don't always play by logic's rules.
Oh, that's for sure.
Especially when emotions get involved.
Okay, yeah. Emotions, they can definitely mess things up.
They really can. So think about it like this. You lose your wallet, it's got $50 in it. Bummer.
Oh, yeah, that's a terrible feeling.
Now imagine, the very next day, you find $50 just on the street.
Okay.
Which one of those situations, which one evokes a stronger reaction?
Oh, definitely losing the wallet.
Yeah.
I mean, finding the $50 would be great, but it wouldn't erase that like sinking feeling of losing the wallet.
That's loss aversion.
Oh, okay.
For most of us, the pain of losing something, it just hits harder than the pleasure of gaining the same thing.
So it's not an equal exchange in our brains.
Not at all, no. And now think about this. This is where it gets really interesting, especially when we're talking about this fear of the unknown. So change always has risk,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
There's a chance things won't work out. You might lose something, time, money, energy,
Yeah.
maybe a bit of your ego if you fail. And your brain, with its amazing negativity bias, it's going to focus on those possible losses way more than on the possible gains.
Oh, so it's like instead of getting excited about all the new possibilities that might come with, say, like a new job,
Right.
we get hung up on the possibility of failing.
Exactly.
Even if it's not even that likely to happen.
Even if it's a tiny chance. We fixate on what we might lose, like our comfy routine, our sense of being good at our job, the friends we've made.
Right.
All that overshadows the chance for growth, new challenges, maybe even more money or amazing new people.
Yeah, it's like our brains have these like negativity goggles on or something.
I like that. Negativity goggles.
Filtering out all the good stuff, amplifying all the bad.
That's a great way to put it.
So we're letting this like ancient fear-driven part of our brain make our decisions for us, even though the world is like totally different than it used to be.
Well, it's not quite that simple. I mean, remember, the amygdala, it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
It evolved to keep us safe, and in a lot of ways, it still does.
That's true.
But we've also evolved this incredible capacity to think things through, to plan, to actually weigh the risks and the rewards.
Okay, yeah. That makes us different.
Exactly. So the key is learning how to balance these two systems, the primal and the rational, so we can make choices that are both good for us and aligned with what we really want deep down.
That makes a lot of sense. So how do we start to, I guess, tip the scales back towards the rational side?
Well, that brings us to something pretty fascinating about imagination. So we humans, we've got this incredible ability to picture the future, to imagine possibilities.
But that same amazing ability can also backfire on us.
Oh, absolutely. Because we don't just imagine what could go right.
Oh, no.
We also imagine and often dwell on what could go wrong.
And not just in like a realistic, okay, here are some challenges to prepare for kind of way.
No.
More like, oh my gosh, what if everything falls apart kind of way.
It's exactly like full-blown catastrophic thinking.
Right. So we're making up these worst case scenarios in our heads.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to fail spectacularly. Everyone's going to laugh at me. I'm going to lose everything.
Pretty much. And all those imagined disasters, they fuel our anxieties.
They do.
They make us even more resistant to change.
It's like our imagination becomes this like fear factory, just churning out these terrifying scenarios.
I love that. The fear factory. That's a perfect description.
It's kind of ironic, right? Our ability to think ahead, to plan, they're supposed to help us.
I think so.
But then it turns into this thing that keeps us stuck and scared.
It's true. It's one of the things that sets us apart from other animals, this ability to think ahead.
Yeah.
But it can also be our downfall, especially when it comes to fear of the unknown.
Okay, so our brains are wired to feel the unknown. Loss aversion makes us focus on the negative, and then our imaginations just run wild with all these worst case scenarios. It's feeling a bit like we're fighting a losing battle here.
I know, it can seem that way. But trust me, there is hope. And that's what we're going to dig into next.
Okay.
Because while understanding the reasons behind this fear, that's really important.
Yeah.
It's equally important to realize that we're not controlled by our biology.
Okay, that's good.
We can actually rewire our thinking.
I like the sound of that.
We can challenge those patterns and ultimately embrace change as something good, a chance to grow and find new opportunities.
I am definitely ready to hear about that. But should we maybe take a quick break?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, we'll be right back to explore some ways we can actually overcome this fear of the unknown. Stick with us. Okay, so we've definitely established that our brains, they have some pretty good reasons for being a little wary of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
But we left off on kind of a hopeful note, I think. That we're not, like, totally powerless against these really deep instincts.
That's right.
So let's get into some of those strategies, for overcoming this fear. I think a lot of us are ready to break free from that comfort zone trap, right?
I think so too. And it is a process, but the good news is there are proven techniques to, sort of rewire our thinking a little bit.
Okay, good.
Priyanka Rajev, she outlines a few in her article.
Okay.
But the first one, and this might be the most important, is learning how to break down change into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay. This is something I definitely struggle with.
Yeah.
I get so overwhelmed by the big picture, like the end goal. It's almost paralyzing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I get it. And it's so common. It's like we look at the top of the mountain and think, how am I ever going to climb all the way up there?
Right, exactly.
But we forget climbing a mountain, it's all about taking one step at a time.
Yeah.
You don't even look at the summit at first.
Right.
You just focus on that next foothold,
Right.
where you're going to put your hand next.
So are you saying we need to like set smaller goals within the bigger goal?
Exactly. So instead of trying to change your whole life, just pick one small thing you want to change. Like, let's say you want to start exercising.
Okay.
You don't sign up for a marathon right away.
Right. No.
Start with like a 10-minute walk.
Okay, yeah.
3 times a week. Or if you're trying to, I don't know, start a career in a new industry,
Right.
you don't quit your job cold turkey.
No.
You start taking an online course or networking with people.
Right. Baby steps.
Exactly, baby steps.
Okay. I love that. It makes the whole thing just seem less scary for sure. But what about, those doubts and those fears that kind of creep in?
Right.
How do we actually quiet that voice in our heads? It's like, what if everything goes wrong?
Well, that's where the next strategy comes in. You got to challenge those negative assumptions. It's like being a detective with your own brain.
Okay. I like that.
When you feel yourself, starting to spiral into that worst case scenario, just stop. Ask yourself, is this fear? Is it based on facts? Or am I just letting my imagination run wild?
So it's about separating like real concerns from those kind of like irrational anxieties.
Exactly. So let's say you're thinking about applying for a promotion.
Okay.
But you're terrified of the interview.
Oh, yeah. Interviews are scary.
They can be. But ask yourself, what's the worst that could realistically happen? You might, I don't know, stumble over your words a little bit.
Right.
Maybe you won't answer every question perfectly. But are those things truly a disaster?
Probably not. I mean, unless you, like, spill coffee all over the interviewer or something.
Okay, true. But even then, I really doubt it would ruin your career forever.
Okay, you're right.
The point is, more often than not, the things that we're most scared of, they're just not likely to actually happen.
Yeah.
And even if they do, we're way more resilient than we think we are.
That's true. Okay, so we're breaking things down into smaller steps.
Mm-hmm.
We're challenging those, negative thoughts. What else can we do to make change feel a little less scary?
Well, remember that incredible imagination we were talking about? The one that can sometimes cause us trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's use it to our advantage this time.
Okay.
It's time to practice visualizing success.
Okay, so this is where we get into those, like, vision boards that people make.
Well, that's one way to do it.
Okay.
But it goes deeper than that. It's about creating a really detailed picture in your mind
Oh,
of yourself thriving in this new situation. What's it feel like? What do you see? What do you hear? Even what do you smell? The more real you can make it, the more you'll start to believe it's actually possible.
I love that. So it's like creating a movie in your mind where you're the star, right?
Exactly.
You're crushing it in this new scenario.
You got it. And here's the really cool thing. When you do that, when you repeatedly visualize yourself succeeding, you're actually prepping your brain for success.
Oh, wow.
You're weakening the connections in your brain that are linked to fear.
Okay.
And strengthening the ones that are linked to confidence and feeling capable.
So we're basically rewiring our brains through visualization.
Pretty much, yeah. But, there's something really important to keep in mind. Even with the best mental preparation, change can still be uncomfortable.
Right.
And it's important to accept that. It's just part of the process.
Right. So if we go into it expecting everything to be easy, like smooth sailing, that's setting ourselves up for failure, basically.
Exactly. It's like thinking you can run a marathon without training. You're going to hit a wall, and that wall is going to be really uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
But that discomfort doesn't mean you're doing something wrong.
Okay, that's good to know.
It just means you're pushing yourself, you're growing.
No pain, no gain.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And speaking of games, let's talk about celebrating progress.
Okay, so are we breaking out the confetti now?
Well, maybe not literally.
Okay.
But it is super important to recognize those wins, even the tiny ones. And so, you finished that online course.
Yeah.
Give yourself a pat on the back.
Okay.
Went to that networking event even though you were nervous.
Yeah.
Celebrate that.
Okay, I like that.
Faced a fear and did it anyway. Give yourself a mental high five.
Awesome. So it's like we're teaching our brains to link change with good feelings instead of bad ones.
Exactly. Every time you celebrate a win, you're reinforcing this idea that change can be a good thing, that you can handle it, that it's not something to be afraid of.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, give yourself little rewards along the way to stay motivated.
That's a great way to think about it. And that brings us to the last strategy for dealing with the fear of the unknown. And this one's huge. Don't go through it alone.
Ah, yes. The power of community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Reach out to your people, friends, family, mentors, colleagues, anyone who can give you some encouragement, perspective, maybe even a little bit of tough love when you need it.
Yeah.
Talking about your fears and worries with someone who gets it, that can make a world of difference.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders, right?
That's a great way to put it.
In your corner, rooting for you to succeed.
Exactly. And sometimes just knowing you're not the only one feeling this way, that can make it feel less overwhelming. Because, here's the thing. Pretty much everyone feels this fear of the unknown.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's part of what makes us human.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. This has been so helpful. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools, for dealing with change now.
I'm glad to hear that.
Before we wrap up, though, let's take a minute to boil down all this wisdom into some key takeaways for everyone listening.
I think that's a great idea. And a good place to start is with understanding that.
We're back, and I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty energized now.
Yeah.
Ready to tackle whatever change comes my way.
Me too.
It's amazing how much of a difference it makes to actually understand why we feel this way about the unknown,
Oh, absolutely. Knowledge is power, right?
Yes, especially when it comes to our own minds.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So let's recap those actionable strategies that Priyanka gave us in her article, the ones that can actually help us break free from this fear and, step into what's possible.
All right, sounds good. So strategy number 1, remember that mountain analogy we were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Break it down. You don't have to climb the whole thing in one go. Just focus on that next step, the next handhold.
Make it bite-sized, manageable. I like it. What's next?
Okay, time to put on your detective hat and challenge those negative assumptions.
Okay.
So when your brain starts spinning those worst-case scenarios, you just stop and ask yourself, is this fear based on reality, or is it just my imagination going a little crazy?
Okay. Get curious about the fear itself.
Exactly. And once you've done that, you've separated the facts from the fiction, then it's time to call on the power of visualization.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine yourself not just getting through the change, but actually thriving in it.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What does it feel like?
This is where we make our own highlight reel.
Right, exactly. You're the star and it's all going amazing.
Love it. Okay, so then how do we deal with those inevitable bumps in the road?
Well, you got to embrace the discomfort.
Okay.
Understand that it's just part of the process. It's a sign that you're pushing yourself, you're growing, you're evolving. Think of it like working out,
Yeah.
You're going to be sore at first.
No pain, no gain. Right.
There you go. And speaking of gains, let's not forget to celebrate the progress we make. Every single step forward, no matter how small it is, it deserves to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
Those little wins, those are what keep you motivated and they build your confidence.
It's like giving ourselves those little dopamine hits along the way.
Exactly. You're reminding yourself that you're capable of handling this.
Okay. I like that. And the last strategy, if I remember correctly, was don't go it alone.
Yes. Don't forget your support system.
The power of community.
Talk to the people you trust, the people who've been there, the people who believe in you.
That's such a good reminder. We're not meant to go through these things alone.
Not at all. We're social creatures. We need each other.
That's so true. Wow. This has been such a helpful deep dive into, the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
It's given me such a new perspective on change. And honestly, I'm kind of excited about what might be waiting for me outside my comfort zone.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
what it's all about.
So to you, our listener, I want to leave you with this. The unknown, it's not just a place of fear. It's also a place of possibility. It's where we can discover new strengths, new passions, new parts of ourselves that we didn't even know existed.
That's a great way to put it.
So what will you discover when you step outside of your comfort zone? What kind of magic is waiting for you in the unknown?